Good evening, Katrov. Good evening, students.
Good evening, David, and good evening, everyone. David, I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, nice and loud and clear. So we'll be starting in 2 minutes' time. Right. Good evening, everyone. Hope you guys are well. Thank you for coming back for the third lesson in the Model UN with Kashraf, your expert trainer that's going through all the materials with you. I hope we're going to have a good lesson tonight, and we're looking forward to what we will be learning. So over to you, Kashraf.
Thank you so much, David. And before we start today's session, let me extend you my most belated and heartfelt wishes on the International Youth Day days back. And in India, we had held a very powerful panel of young people, slightly younger than even yourselves. And we had the UNISA team also join in. So we all remembered you and the work all of you are doing here in South Africa as well there. So I'm so glad that in the next 2 days we are here again. And let's get started. Uh, you know, today, David, can we put up our presentation, please? Today we have something so important that we are discussing that you can instantly use all of whatever we are doing, and you can simply apply it in your academics. You can apply it in anything, any part of your life. And this is about research and preparation in an MUN for a model UN. You can do the same through other in your paper presentations and so many other things. So please listen to our discussion today very intently and please do participate. Okay, so let us start discussing. Before we go to the next slide, what is research, everyone? Like when you say that you are researching about an issue, what are you really doing? So anyone who can put that in the chat for us. When we say research, then what is research to you? some words that come to your mind that you'd like to share in the chat as well. So anyone who wants to intensive research, okay, so say that depth is something, finding information, okay, very nice. Thank you so much for your responses. Gathering and analysis information, digging deeper into the topic, new knowledge, okay, delving into a certain topic through all available information. Okay, anything else that you think? Gathering information for which you want to learn or understand more about. Okay, very nice. So I think these are all excellent points that you are putting forward. Gaining more information at an academic level on a specific topic and analyzing it. Yes. Okay. So thank you everyone for these responses. And I think these are excellent facts that you have shared. Now I will argue for you and I want you to tell me your opinion. When I write the statement, uh, I've just written a statement in the chat. I would love to know what you think, what your thinking is about them. You can just simply put a thumbs up or a down, or if there's a, oh, I don't think there's an option of thumbs down. But when I say research is care and research is sensitivity, what does that mean to you? Anyone who can tell me what this means? Who has any opinion around it? What do you mean when I say research is care and research is sensitivity? Okay. So say that um, there's a war going on in Gaza and I find out more information about it. Is that research? Yes, no, yes, okay. What has happened once I have found out about Gaza? Have I done anything about it? Has anything actually solved for Gaza itself? um, by me finding out anything about it, if I simply use it to use that information to continue the same pattern, and I am only understanding how to be a good dictator from that entire research about Gaza. So, is that the research? And then what does it mean that simply fact finding and remembering the fact is that research? The world has information about the apartheid in South Africa, and yet they are leading one more in the Middle East and so many places around the world. Is that research? So, what is research? And when you are doing the research, then is the objective of the research more important than the research itself? Um, these are all questions that are very important when you are looking at MU and related research. The reason is that here the research means impact on a particular problem. So if you are simply researching to develop analysis, then that you are replaceable with Luazi today and ChatGPT. If you are simply utilizing research to write a good research paper, then now technology has already replaced you as a mind. If you are simply applying some problem solving framework, uh, to a problem, I can I can share with you for sure, and even David will agree with me, I'm sure, that technology can just do all of the above, that whatever we have talked about right now. So everything that we have written here about research, it is one prompt for Luazi, whether it's intensive research or it's finding information or it's gathering and analyzing information or it's digging deeper into a topic. Would you agree with a yes or a no or some thumbs up that everything we have written here is something that AI can just do like faster than us, better than us, stronger than us, like Kanye West would say, uh, that he would do, that the AI would do it faster than us. So, what I would argue to you is that the utility of research and the way in which research needs to happen in the age of artificial intelligence and where you as individuals place yourself in that cannot be simply about fact finding now. I hope that that is clear with everyone. The other thing is, if you are researching about gender rights in the morning and in the night you are harassing women, then that research is not very helpful to you because that research is not bringing about any understanding for you or your positive behavior. So the whole idea of research now has to be towards, I would say, building sensitivity towards the society, towards ourselves, and and sensitivity is very, very important. That also needs to go to your understanding, and finally, it needs to go to your emotional space. So I would argue to you that now when we are looking for research today in this whole model UN, then sensitivity, understanding, emotion, and awareness of everything needs to happen, but we are talking about real awareness. We are not talking about filling our mind with intellectual facts. We are talking about if we are reading about climate change and we have the research that these planetary boundaries are being violated, are already 6 of the 9 boundaries. Now, that is a fact. But do you understand what the urgency of the fact demands now from the world? Are you able to let that information come to you and sensitize you in a way that you change your own behavior around it? So let me take just one last example to you, with you all about what I'm discussing. Imagine that your house is on fire and you have information that your house is on fire. Does that information save your life, or does the real confrontation of the issue and acting on that research and information save your life, right? So whenever you will see that the urgency of the world or any issue is there, and you keep seeing it in an intellectual space, please remember that that research is not helping you. Now I want to quickly talk about another part of that for you. That is what happens when you're simply doing your research in an intellectual space, everyone. When you are looking at it from an intellectual space, then your entire journey for MUN and preparation is simply about your recalling of facts and then I would say vomiting of facts at the MUN. Okay, so first you sit and you remember the facts, and then you vomit them in the MUN, right? Does that solve anything? If you don't understand your research, if you don't understand the problem, and you are not solving the issue, you are simply so what gets rewarded in such a system, everyone, is what we call as recall value. And nowadays, we are living in a world where recall value is not what makes leaders. It's your ethics, your decision making, your courage, your value system that is now making you a leader. So please remember that simply having access to facts and figures and narrating them in a committee is not research. Okay? Research is truly understanding the problem and then letting that really decide for your things for you. So I hope that is very clear to you before we move forward. And if you become the same sensitive person in your academics, and you are not preparing your research and your preparation for exams again, simply recalling facts and then vomiting them, but actually learning and applying those things in your careers and your lives, then that is, I'm honestly sharing with you what will make you a leader of your industry, and not simply recall values, because recall values, like how much can we remember a fact, became redundant the day you could store information like food grain in a folder in a computer, because now you can simply reproduce that information anytime. So don't be under that impression anymore that simply holding information is anything. So David, next slide, please. One more, next one, next one. Okay. So now this is what will be. I I'm just going to read the comment which has come, and then I will move forward. And so our friend has said that no, by not understanding your own facts, you're detached from the issue, and further, you will not be able to present or change the issue at hand in a meaningful way, particularly at the UN where you're advocating for other people who don't have a voice. I think this is so well stated. So thank you. You are absolutely correct. Um, Absolutely. If you are able to simply see the fact and ignore the suffering of a war, then you are well researched, but you are not sensitive. And sensitivity towards suffering is what changes things, not the knowledge of that fact. So you have to remember it. And let me throw in a quick quiz for you. 1 or 2 days back was a very important moment for all of us as human beings. Beyond the Elephant Day and the Youth Day, there was another very important anniversary for the world as far as conflicts are concerned. So you can tell, so you can find out and tell me. And one random hint I will give you is the word, say Switzerland, and you can now run your brain and like think about it. What would it be, and find out. All right. So in our research approach now, we are looking at these 4 steps. And we will quickly understand the importance of these 4 steps and what do we mean by these 4 steps. So the first step, as you see, is understanding the UN and the UN system. So this we have already covered quite a lot when we were discussing earlier. What is the UN itself? What is the preamble to the charter? What is the values of the UN? What is its problem solving approach? What are the different mechanisms that UN has? So first idea is that you understand the whole space of operation of the UN, so that right from receiving the problem at the UN to delivering a solution to the world, you are in full understanding of how that process operates. So for example, if you are on this call and you know that our technical leader in the call is David, so that is information and your research. And you know that I am tasked right now to deliver you the session. So that is like understanding who is doing what in the UN and how things happen. So if you have a technical problem and you ask me that technical problem, will that help you at all? Yes or no? Anyone in chat or otherwise? Will it help you if you ask me about a technical issue? I am absolutely illiterate as far as technology is concerned. So I have to simply, I will just press join the call and leave the call, and then I will talk. Similarly, if you ask David a sophisticated question on international law, I mean, I know David is a smart man who probably will also know the answer, but he will tell you that why don't you ask the right person whose job it is to answer that question. So similarly, what it does for you is every solution that you have, you will be able to understand how to use the UN's resources, UN's processes, the laws in the UN to actually then take the solution forward. This is something that I will tell you that many young people have no clue about, and they don't read about it. So their advocacy right now is limited to the messaging part of advocacy. You want the voices to go out, but I think that the voices need to go out, but they also need to go to the right offices for the change to happen. So that is something very, very important. So for instance, if I am making the same noise about my issues related to water shortage in India at say in the Durban cricket ground in a India South Africa cricket match, then maybe people don't care about it so much. But right opposite that Durban cricket ground is the Indian High Commissioner's office. If I find the right office and I make the right noise, maybe my work might get done after all. So understanding the UN and the UN system is essential, everyone. Do not straight away jump into topic-based Google searches or ChatGPT searches simply on the topic that you get the agenda. Start slow and start foundationally. I hope that is clear, everyone. Now, the second part of this conversation will be developing a viewpoint. So, what is a viewpoint? Your viewpoint of the things is right, your viewpoint, where you see the world, how you see the world, what are your presumptions when you see the world. So if climate change is being discussed, are you discussing climate change as a person who is affected by the climate change in a negative way, or are you seeing it as a insurance person who's thinking that wow, there is the business is booming, now more disasters means more people want insurance? Or are you looking at it from a oil company's perspective that this climate change nonsense is, affecting our business negatively? Why are these people after our businesses? Don't they understand this and that? So this viewpoint sometimes determines our entire understanding of the same problem. We can be either at the receiving end, or we can be at the giving end, or we can be at another end. But developing a precise viewpoint from your country's perspective is the single most important thing. So one example I will also give you is that once you have understood how to develop a viewpoint, remember that your viewpoint of the first issue, which is UN and its functioning, will also change. So if you are viewing United Nations as a P5 country, a Russia, a US, a China, or a France or the UK, your view of the UN is entirely different. If you are viewing it as South Africa, the view is entirely different. If you are viewing it as the representative of Palestine, your view is entirely different. Your view is on the agenda is also very, very different. So understanding and being able to develop the right viewpoint and what is the place of research in developing that viewpoint is what we will be discussing. I hope that these first two are clear. Don't worry, we will go into one by one elaborately. I will bore you with every bullet point through several slides, but I hope that the first two parts are absolutely clear to you. Now, the third is understanding the agenda. So once you have developed a viewpoint and you've understood the UN, now you are understanding the conversation that is happening inside the UN, which is the agenda itself. And that then we will discuss how do we analyze the agenda, what aspects to look at, and so on. And finally, we are building what we call as a negotiation framework. So a negotiation framework will be what you want from the others, what you are willing to give to the others, what is it that you will definitely not do, and what is it that you will be happy to do. Like for instance, if India and South Africa had to negotiate a cricket agreement, maybe you will agree to, you know, have a series between India and South Africa every year. But one thing that I don't think South Africa will do is hand over Kagiso Rabada to us or AB de Villiers and let them take Indian nationalities. That's an absolute red zone. for the South African government, or if I tell you to exchange your rugby team with us, I don't think you will give us your rugby captain in exchange of even Shubnam Gill, who's an Indian current captain in cricket right now. Absolutely, like I know you won't. So so that is where your negotiation framework will continue to guide you as a country on what you should negotiate, what you should not negotiate, right? And that is these are the four things that I want you to understand. And if you are able to work through these issues, then you have to remember that then the MUN will become a very enjoyable, spontaneous conversation that you understand all the time, and that you're not struggling with, framing questions, framing arguments and rebuttals. Remember that MUN requires you to be spontaneous as well at the end of the once your initial speeches that you have prepared are exhausted and you're done, and somebody brings in a new issue, you will have to become spontaneous. And your research approach is essentially taking you the point of understanding, where maybe you will understand that why to do something and why not to do it. Once you know it, you will then all the solutions will become very obvious to you. So you will have a lot of clarity. Like right now, you understand your rugby scene, you understand your cricket scene. So if I tell you that you can have Virat Kohli in exchange of your rugby captain, you will be like, Virat Kohli is retired, guys. So now we don't want him, and our rugby captain is too valuable for us to really let go of. So this is why then you don't need to research about the solution. I hope that you're clear. And and that is about the whole research approach we are taking. Finally, we will and in each section we will keep understanding what are the sources of your research that you're using to build your own understanding versus what can be used in the UN to prove certain facts, to disprove certain facts. And these are the two things we need to come emerge out of. At the end of the class, you will then start doing some solid informed research on your agendas and the topics that we are going to be doing next month in our MUN simulation. So I hope that that is clear to everyone. Now let us move forward with this, please. Yes. So when we are starting out to understand the United Nations and the UN system, certain things are very, very basic and important for you to understand. Firstly, what is the history of the UN, how it was formed, why it was formed, what was before the UN, why was it there, why didn't that work? All of these questions, remember, that are very important. So more than your search and the answers, remember that asking questions is the most important thing that you can do for yourself. Ask as many questions as you can. Be super curious about these issues. And I know you are super curious about many issues because you go into these Instagram holes on one issue for 4 hours. The next thing you know, you're watching a dog video for 4 hours through the night. So you know how to deep dive. We just need to deep dive in the right spaces now. So the first thing is history. Then you have to understand the membership criteria. How the membership criteria works. When the criteria is there, why are countries not getting suspended for acting the way they are acting today? So understand the fact and then understand its politics also. It is very, very critical for us to understand both of them. And I still haven't heard the answer from everyone about the Switzerland question I had asked you. So I hope that that question will be responded to at some point by our 72 young thinkers, exception of David and myself. So do research and like find out. It's a very interesting thing that happened 2-3 days back. I mean, technically it happened some 76 years, 78 years back, but like in the 365-day calendar, it only took place couple of days ago. So you're firstly, once you've understood how the UN operates, its membership, its organs, now this is a very important thing that is written next. That is linkage between the various committees. This means that if you are in the General Assembly and you want to impose sanctions on, say, the state of Israel for its human rights violations on Palestine, then those sanctions can't be imposed in the General Assembly. They can only be imposed in the Security Council. This you will find out once you read about the powers and functions of every committee. So then you have to understand, can the General Assembly do something to influence the decision making of the Security Council? Is there some legal ways around it? Yes, there are. The General Assembly, when you will research, you will find out, can issue an actual strong recommendation to the Security Council through its own UN resolutions as well. And then you will also see maybe one thing which is called as UFP, which is Uniting for Peace. Uniting for Peace is the mechanism that the UN has used several times, I mean, now in the last few decades, where when the Security Council process breaks down, so the countries pass a UN resolution which is symbolic of superseding the Security Council's political will. So this was done with Ukraine sometime back, with even I think with Israel also, like with for Palestinian people also UNGA did. So you need to know now all of these things. Then you have to look at the landmark resolutions of the UN. So you need to know which are these important UN resolutions that have been taken on previously. This will help you understand how the UN actually solves certain issues. What is it that they are capable of doing in the past? They have done. What is it that they can't do? So this is about the landmark UN resolutions. And the final is the important international days and observances. So, like 2 days back was the International Youth Day, and next 5 weeks from now will be the International Day of Peace. In February, in March, we have the International Women's Day. We have the World Environment Day in June. In April, we have the Earth Day. In October, we have the UN Day. I also know every date because I celebrate them through different events that we do at the dais. But you need to know about them because these are also, there is a day of that. Okay, so the Switzerland, what I was saying was that a few days back was the anniversary of the Geneva Conventions. Geneva Conventions are the most important conventions when you're looking for a war, and how parties should conduct themselves, how the aid should be going inside the country, how journalists should be treated, how aid workers should be treated. Should if a soldier is captured in a war by another country, can they torture that soldier? Will they can they permanently keep the soldier in their custody for the rest of their lives? And then there are these. So Geneva Conventions actually decide that. Um, and uh, and like I want to tell you why this is important for you to read. So, for instance, imagine if it is written in the Geneva Conventions that a person occupying like a advancing army should not attack innocent civilians and should not shoot at them. But if one of the now I give you a problem that if one of the civilians takes up a gun and starts shooting at the army, then what is the legality of Geneva Convention? Right? Now, this is a great question. Is it Geneva Conventions because the UN headquarters are located there? Um, so I think you should find out that answer and tell me yourself, why are certain conventions called as those conventions? Because you will now see there are Vienna Conventions, Geneva Conventions. There is probably a Nairobi Declaration as well, right? So there are. So why is that? How is that? Most likely, you will find out what you will find out, and I was very tempted to give you an answer, but I won't. because you need to find it out and then tell me how they name the name of the conventions. Okay. So that is about the UN and the UN system. I hope that we are all clear on the importance of it, because I know you will find the information. You are very smart people, all of you. Next slide, please, David. Now, this conversation we have already had, why it is important to understand the UN and the UN system. So we will straight away move to the next slide, please. This we also covered again, that when you're researching, you need to not just know about the principal organs, you need to know about specialized agencies, you need to know about the UN programs, UN commissions, UN offices. Next slide. And then there are the UN tribunals, UN funds, mechanisms. So once you understand all of how they function, you'll be able to think of solutions and frame them in the language of the UN structures. So that is what you're trying to do. All right. So developing a viewpoint, I've now, so let's not now start talking about developing a viewpoint. I think this is the single most takeaway for you for this work for this session today. How do we develop the right kind of viewpoint? And is a viewpoint dependent on simply facts, or there is something more? So say that I am Keshav, I am from India. I don't have a particularly fantastic second name if I have to settle down in South Africa right now. But say that I still risk it all and I want to settle in the great city of Durban, which I've absolutely loved because I haven't been to the Eastern or the Western Cape yet. Uh, and if I have to then imagine if a government officer wants to interview me and say that Keshav, you have to prove that you have now developed a South African viewpoint. So how will I develop a South African viewpoint from my default viewpoint, which might be an Indian viewpoint? Can some of you put it in the chat for me? Do I need to know when was Mr. Nelson Mandela born? Where he was captured? Is it important that I should know he was captured in Howick and it's the Midlands area where he was captured? And what happened in South Africa's history? Do you think that's important for me to understand? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Very important, right? Do you think I will have to understand these important great kings, whether it's the Zulu kings or the four key cultures that you have? Yeah, those are important. Do I need to know what a bunny chow is? Right? I need to know what a bunny chow is if I have to be a South African. Uh, right? I need to love football, rugby. I can't be a South African if I don't like these two sports. Uh, say so. So so that means that I not only need to understand the facts, but I also need to understand the culture very deeply. I also need to understand what are South African people thinking, like what is their mindset. As far as I have understood, one thing that South African people really value is respect, mutual respect with each other, and sensitive communication. Like, and whenever I have heard any UN speeches from a South African leader, one thing I've always observed is how articulate they are, their human rights driven, understanding of things, their expectation from the society that the Ubuntu principles will be embraced by the world. And, they are willing to kind of um, even extend that trust. Sometimes that leads into institutional corruption and manipulation at a political level, a lot of division sometimes. But so somebody has written that you must also know that here South Africa is called as Kota, right? So, I mean, all of these things, I need to not just know the facts, I need to know the essence. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that again I've seen as a South African people is the level of energy that you all have, this cheerfulness that I always hear in South African friends of mine, colleagues that I get on a call, even with low energy. And a South African person, whenever I'm with them, I always will end up feeling energized and now why is that important? Because that is how then, friends, you will view the world. I hope that you are understanding that research of your country requires you to probably start watching some South African films also. Like, I need to know South African cinema. I need to know South African music. I need to know the whole culture so that when I have to hear anything from a South African point of view, then I am understanding that as such. So if South Africa loses in cricket versus they lose in rugby, I think they probably feel more hurt at rugby. If I have understood that correctly. But from India, my understanding from India with South Africa would be cricket because we don't play rugby in India so much. Uh, we do the math around rugby probably, but we don't play rugby so much. So do you see how the viewpoint will be very different between the two vantage points from where I start? So your research that way has to be very immersive. Your research should not be cursory. And the most important thing, friends, that needs to happen through your research is you need to, now this is where I will say research is care, what I had said earlier. It means if I do not develop a emotional bond with South Africa while I'm representing South Africa, anyone who criticizes my country in an MUN, I will simply make a intellectual rebuttal to them. I will not make a actual rebuttal which will have emotions, which will have, like, whenever I have followed any legislative proceeding of a South African parliament, I mean, it's a real emotional place. I've understood that people are driven. They are passionate in their debate. They really like take on issues. They make strong remarks. So if I don't do that as a delegate of South Africa, then I will not win because I have not understood and developed a emotional bond for my country. I hope you do you understand everyone? So for instance, now if I were to tell you that Nigeria has a better say rugby team than South Africa, a lot of you are probably already feeling offended, right? And then you don't need research to prove to me that that is not the case. You will straight away probably shout at me. Some of you will gift me some beautiful creative abuses as well if you had the choice. And you don't need to then think about how to oppose me. You know the opposition. You know exactly what you will say. You know exactly which World Cup you have won. You know exactly the legends who have come out of the game because you are that integrated with that knowledge. I hope that you've understood what I'm trying to tell you. Or, for instance, for me to understand South Africa as a rainbow state versus somebody who lives there and understands the importance of that, that's a two very different perspectives. So this is where, like, now let me give you one last example of where this viewpoint development is very, very important. Like one of the things in India versus I've seen in South Africa is that we have very, very cheap internet data here in India. Like, it is very, very cheap and it is very widely accessible. So imagine if somebody proposes a solution for climate change and artificial intelligence, which says that you should keep leveraging technology to towards finding solutions on climate change. And if I'm actually from South Africa, where I'm seeing the power sector, I mean the electrical power sector, electricity power sector, in a total kind of a challenging space. And I know that data is expensive, data is sometimes inaccessible. So then, do you think as South Africa, even if the policy makes total sense, I will support that policy? What do you think my response will be on that policy? If I am a delegate of South Africa, do I need any research to kind of go against it and critique it? Chat, let's use chat to reply. No, you already know that stuff is not going to work. Yeah. And this is where your intelligence will take over. And you will say, no, we need to find solutions which are on the ground. And then not only will you be able to talk for South Africa, you will probably also be able to talk on behalf of Lesotho and DRC and even like parts of Nigeria. You will be able to talk about India, where the data may not be there because India is again 1.5 billion people. So maybe I am in one of the few, like, I'm enjoying my Gupta privileges here in India as well somehow. Right? So this is what I'm trying to tell you, that it is super critical for you to use your research and develop a authentic view of things, where rather than having to analyze solutions, you just know that stuff is not going to work. Like for instance, in my own visits to this Edendale community outside of Pietermaritzburg, I saw that schools did not have a football ground or a football. So if I propose a solution that I need to engage people through football matches, yes, that is a great idea. But before that, my solution has to be create football fields and allocate funding to public education system in South Africa. So this is where you will then no longer need research, because your lived experience and your depth of research will help you understand everything in an obvious way. So I hope that you've understood that, and you agree with my initial view of South Africa, and you will agree that I am 50% South African already in my now DNA. So maybe another few conversations with you, I can apply for a citizenship there and change my second name before that on my passport. So that is about the viewpoint. Now, what do we find out in that viewpoint? Let's go to the next slide, everyone. Uh, yes. So, what are you reading about? You're reading about the basic information to start with. Then you're looking at every geopolitical, economic, social, demographical, cultural aspect of your country. Uh, and and then you're looking at important alliances you have, which are the friends of your country, what are the global regional cooperations, and what is and about, like for instance, how active where are we more active as a country, key statistics and trends on the impact of the topic towards your country, the larger foreign policy of your country. I mean, the only thing for a long time I knew about South Africa, which fascinated me, was how it has three different capitals. Whereas in India, for such a big country, we have only one little capital where I live. Uh, Whereas in South Africa, it's one of the few places I found out that they have created, administrative, judicial, legislature-based capitals separately. So that to me was a fascinating understanding. And finally, what you have to understand is the strategic interest of your country. Now, this, my friends, is the most important thing. Your entire research has to help you understand your country's larger national interest. So, say that if I were to give you an example, and you have to tell me how that affects your national interest as a country. Okay. Say that if we say that anyone who does not use artificial intelligence will not have a voice in climate change from 2027. So how will you be like? How will you see that if you have to use one word and it can't be abusive? Because we are on a formal meeting, so it has to be in protocol diplomatically. Um, what would it be in the chat? If I tell you that nobody who doesn't have AI should not have a say, and that is how climate change will become not practicable. That is such a polite way of saying it. Yes, absolutely. That it is not practicable. It is unjust. Oh, we have a Kagisho today here. Okay, great. Untrue, unrealistic, impossible. Very good. So this means that you understand what is in interest of your country and what is not. But say if I ask you the same question as the representative of Switzerland, right now, do you have a response to it, which you know is an accurate response? Yes or no? What do you say? Do you have a response? No, you don't. Why? Because your knowledge system currently is only looking at South Africa because of your exposure to South African context. The moment you are the delegate of Switzerland, and remember, some of you will be the delegates of Switzerland, India, Pakistan, countries with which South Africa may or even may not have good relations, Israel, USA. So you will have to understand the same way you understand the South African perspective. You will have to that deeply understand and embrace just for the MUN that entire perspective. And you have to negotiate it like that. So I hope that that is very clear to you as to why this depth of research is critical to us. Next slide, please, David. And if you have any questions, I hope you keep bringing them in the chat. Now, moving forward, we are then looking at the viewpoint from the government's perspective. Now, if I have understood it correctly, and you can please correct me, like 2 years back while I was in South Africa, ANC was essentially waning a little bit, and this is not a political statement. I mean to say, in terms of its vote bank, there is another party that was kind of coming up, which had more radical, views on economic reforms and so on. And the power with which ANC could initially legislate in South Africa, it probably is not the same in 2025 today. If my assessment is correct, you can give me a thumbs up so I know that what I'm saying is making sense to you. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. So I'm glad that I understand the issue in a right way. So what this means is that if your government is not having a strong majority in the House, can it take strong decisions to change things abruptly? Yes or no? No, it can't, because it will have a lot of opposition. However, if say that David was decided that David is going to now become a ANC representative and contest elections, and we all vote for David, and David becomes the next prime minister with an overwhelming majority. So then we know that David can actually make those changes because David enjoys a popularity that we last saw Mr. Mandela enjoy in South Africa. So you have to remember that that developing your viewpoint and understanding your government's key agenda, its principles. We don't have a prime minister in South Africa. President, my apologies, and this is exactly what I'm trying to say. That anyone who knows this and has done only peripheral research will be making the same mistake that I have just shown you, that you don't have a prime minister. So maybe when you are representing a Burkina Faso and you have simply presumed that your political structures apply to Burkina Faso also, this is the exact mistake that you will see in the committee as well in the middle of debate. So Kagisho, please let me extend you my thanks to point that out, and then also to show us what will happen in a committee like that. Okay, so you have to understand what the government's priority is, their structure is, their current majority is, what is the domestic politics, how is the domestic politics shaping its external view. So you have to really understand that. And all of this, remember, whatever we have discussed, as far as developing the viewpoint is concerned, you can do that through listening to podcasts of scholars. You can do that through listening to UNISA professors. If there are political science experts here, you can do that through your own reading. You can do that through talking to your local representatives, because it is about understanding the issue. Right now it is not about using this information to debate. uh, so uh, so that is very, very important. And Kagisho, I never see this as a lecture. I always see it as a opportunity to hang out with some really cool friends twice a week. So I will say that this is our hanging out space right now, and lecture is the formal shape we have given to it as to fool the adult world. Um, right, and thank you for putting this Geneva Convention text here. Exactly. So the Geneva Convention 1949, this was adopted after the World Wars because we saw how bad humans were treating each other in the war. But remember that before Geneva Conventions, there were several wars that were fought by the great kings and chiefs in South Africa with the invading people as well. And the principles in Geneva Convention about care and everything were equally important or applicable throughout, because these are principles. They may or may not be laws, but if somebody is hurt and cannot fight any longer, you don't have to arrest them all the time, right? And now we have got also the answer to the initial question, that the conventions and treaties are usually named after the place where they are signed. Absolutely. So that is absolutely 100% right. So thank you for that response. Um, right. So I hope that you've understood how to develop a country's viewpoint. Next slide, please. Understanding the agenda. Okay, so now we are moving towards the moment we have the problem. So to understand the problem, and the first thing we are doing is we are really looking at the keywords in the committee. So I am framing an agenda for you, agenda statement in the chat right now. And you have to tell me what are the keywords here. Okay, so if you give me 10 seconds, I'm just typing something for you. I'm muting myself so I don't verbalize it as I type. So just give me 1 second. Right. So I have just finished typing the agenda statement to you. And that is combating the global warming through indigenous and industrial knowledge. So what are the key words here, friends? Just you can type them out in the chat. Like knowledge, very good. So knowledge is a word that will need a lot of clarity in what knowledge is. Very good. Global warming. Combating, very nice, very good. Uh, indigenous, nobody has written yes. Yeah, indigenous and even industrial, I'd say. All of these have certain very, very specific meanings. So for instance, can anyone tell me now where do I find the information for global warming? Where, what should be my reference point for understanding global warming? Is global warming when like Rabada is running in very, very fast and kind of setting the pitch and the stadium on fire with his Yorkers and his bouncers? Is that global warming? Or is it the 1.5 degree temperature rise that is accepted by the world as a part of the climate change Paris Agreement in 2015? So which is the global warming that we are looking at? Is it about climate resilience and climate change? Or is it simply the 1.5 degree that is actually in the Paris Agreement? It will be the 1.5 degree in the Paris Agreement. Why? Because we are building on dialogues year on year, and we can't be setting the same, you know, having the same discussions. We are building on dialogues as the UN. So the knowledge or the definition of climate change will have to be grounded in science and law, both, right? But where will the knowledge definition come from, everyone? Where will you understand knowledge, the word knowledge from? Anyone? How will you reference your understanding of knowledge? Okay, academia. Yes, maybe academia, but can you tell me, sir, uh, whether indigenous knowledge can be understood or should be understood through academia? What do you think? Yes or no? I mean, indigenous knowledge. So say that you have all these great important civilizations that have been living harmoniously in the forests with the nature without disturbing them. Maybe somebody has not written anything about them as a scholar. There is no research paper available. But then should we not look at knowledge in a way of what is the stories, what are the oral tradition? Yes, absolutely. So you have absolutely said the right thing that they are practiced and passed down verbally and through life practices. So you can't expect that the knowledge definition then will be coming only from academia. That knowledge will have to come from the very context in which the word is being used. Uh, at the same time, when we look at industrial knowledge, friends, what would industrial knowledge mean? Uh, what would industrial knowledge mean? What would industrial knowledge or any phrase mean? I want to make sure that these phrases, as you understand, will keep changing, right? Like as we move along. So what is the basic thumb rule that you have to use is I have tried to encapsulate it in 4 words, and I am just putting those magical 4 words for you in the chat. It the magical words are don't presume, find out. I hope that you understand that whatever the context is, do not make a presumption. Do not simply mean knowledge as what you have understood knowledge as. You have to be able to find out. So nowadays, whenever you ask me questions which are about knowledge, ideally my response to you from my heart that is I'm whispering without saying is why can't you find this out yourself? Because you are smart, right? So why can't you simply have a mindset where before you ask a question, you find out yourself when you have the tools? And if you are able to do that, then you are becoming independent also in your thinking. Because if you ask me, maybe I give you the Indian understanding of that issue. Maybe I give you the global understanding. But will I give the same understanding that Kagisho will have? I can't do that. I can give you Keshav's understanding, but can I give you Kagisho's understanding? No, that Kagisho will have to make for himself. So this is where not only knowledge is the key, Gabriel, your agency is the key. And that agency that you have has to be clubbed with a lot of hard work, long hours, sitting in libraries, genuinely trying to find things out. Instead of the cute dog video, watching the Geneva Convention documentaries. This will mean developing a culture where you are, I mean, you can enjoy the dog videos, but also watch the Geneva Convention video. So that is where your lifestyle has to shift, and you have to become a person who inquires before presuming, a person who finds out before asking, and a person who has an opinion that is based on independent thinking. Once you can do that, friends, then you don't have to go even into colonial, decolonial lenses. You can simply be yourself, and rather than have looking at things only from a political order, you can look at them as your own mind. So the finally the so I am just trying to tell you that the only way that you can do that is a lot of hard work and a lot of initiative that you will have to take. And once you have that, you will be able to move away from this centuries old idea of sovereignty of nation. And you will be able to move away from that towards sovereignty of your own mind. And once you are able to have a sovereignty of your own mind, you can then build the sovereignty of your community, of your family, and then, friends, you are able to reassess the entire political order which has led us to this point as the world. Uh, Gender lens is also important, Nobantu. You have said, and I 100% agree. I think human lens to issues is very, very critical. Lived experiences are also very, very important. And once again, I would say uh, that we have to also then critique the very understanding of how knowledge institutions are shaped right now. So, so all of that is about the understanding of the agenda, and you have to be very smart in understanding where what phrase is applicable. Okay. So now let us go to the next slide. Uh, okay. Now, when you are looking at the problem itself of the agenda, like now you have understood the keywords. Now you're looking at the problem itself. So what is the problem? I had written the issue as indigenous that combating climate change through indigenous and industrial knowledge. So as you see the questions, they are simply questions, right? How does the country affect how does the problem affect my country? I mean, how does my country affect the problem is also an equally important issue here. But in understanding of the problem, you have to ask so many questions, right? And you will see there are so many how questions here. How does the problem affect my country, my allies, the world, other countries? Are there any related problems to it? Can the problem be understood through macro lenses or macro trends? So is the problem of poverty about the problem of development, or the problem of accumulation and guarding the accumulated resources? So is the question, should we frame the problem as of poverty, or should we frame it as inequality, or should we phrase the issue as greed? Like that, all of that finally also decides how we or education, Vici has said that, or education. So any of these can be the problems, but you have to be able to inquire through questions around it, and this will again means hours of reading and research. um, so, and then what is the cause of the problem? Is there a cause to the cause? So there are so many questions, and these are just guiding questions. You can also ask several others that come to your mind. Next slide, please. Understanding the stakeholder. So once you have understood the problem, remember everyone that simply understanding the solution or the problem is a very useless activity when you're not implementing it in the society with people. And for that, understanding and what we call as a stakeholder mapping, I'm just putting it in the chat for you, is a stakeholder mapping is an essential activity that you have to understand who is responsible for this issue. Can I talk to those people? How much power do I have? Influence do I have with them? How can I develop more influence and power around it? What is the best way that they'd like to engage? Uh, and remember that the climate change issue has industry in it, has academia in it, has governance in it, has people in it, has cultures in it. There are several things that make up the issue. And unless there is a collective will and a collective movement of all of these folks, your issue will not get resolved. And one of the classic examples we are seeing is the oil spills and the way that oil spills by these massive corporate companies, even in Nigeria, have been looked into and how they have played out. The reason that has happened is the stakeholders themselves are not on the same page together. If you look at any civil war that is happening, it is simply that the stakeholders of the issue are on different pages and they are on such a different page that they are willing to use violence to accomplish their own interest in that. So stakeholders, if you are able to bring together stakeholders to the same forum, to the same place, then that is something that will be very profound for you. Now, beyond this, I had also told you all about how the G20 is happening in your country and how you can get involved. And some of you said, how can you do that? So I believe I had shared with David in the evening a opportunity that is, I think, on the 2nd September, David, on virtual meeting, where the government of South Africa is inviting stakeholders and people to join the call, and they may be hearing their opinions as well. So we just want to put it for you here for one moment so you can read through it. And there is a sign up link that I had also found out that I also shared with David. He'll probably put on the chat. I'm giving you 1 minute to just look at it. I mean, look and take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but I think it is important for you to see that there are already spaces which are open if you keep an eye out for them. I mean, I'm sitting in Delhi and I'm aware of this opportunity. You are in South Africa. There's no excuse, friends. So you have to now find out these opportunities and then start sharing with them with our community. And David, if you can also share this registration link, if I did share with you. I think I had. Yes. So, so David will be sharing that link also with you. Wonderful. So I hope that you are able to kind of join this meeting and similarly get involved, have a brief introductory bio of yourself ready when you go in case you want to introduce yourself. Have an email which does not have a lot of different creative names, but have a formal email to yourself which you can share for connecting. Make sure that, for instance, your LinkedIn is updated a little bit so that when you start connecting with people, that network actually translates into something productive for you. So please make sure that you are able to utilize this opportunity. And this is where your action will go outside the classroom already. Okay. So now, similarly, now how we were trying to understand the stakeholders and the problems, we are also trying to understand the solutions. And then remember that some of those solutions are already there. We are simply not implementing them. Some solutions are not possible, maybe were not possible 10 years ago because of technology, and now it is possible. And so this is something that you can look at. Gabriel, I mean, ideally, you can use any email, but I'd say that David will respond to you at the end of the call about whether you can use the MyLife email accounts to attend this event or not. So that is something that I believe our colleague will clarify to you. So let's go to the next slide now, David. International law. So now one of the key things that you have to now start researching about is international law. Remember, international law is your ally. It is something that is already agreed upon by countries that they're willing to follow it, which means that you don't have to continue to build consensus on whether something should be international law or not. So use it. Geneva Convention is an international law. Paris Agreement is an international law, right? And understanding these will also help you understand the larger thinking of global community across decades and not just what they're doing in 2025, which is frankly uh, like very, very interesting what they're doing right now, because I watch movies and I realize there are better plots in the news right now. If I open some news channel, I can see more fascinating stories. So you have to find out more about international law. Can you go to the next slide, David? There are four places where international law is written and used from. One is what we call as treaties and conventions. This means all of, and we had already talked about some of it last time as well. Uh, that that there are treaties and conventions, customs, which form international law, general principles of law, and judicial decisions. Now, where is this all written? It is actually written in the international law itself, in the United Nations Charter, specifically in the Statute of the International Court of Justice. I believe it should be some section 10 or 11, which talks about the sources of international law. So this is where you can start researching about them. Next slide, please. Yes. So remember that international law is divided into 7 major categories. One is what we call as the international human rights law. So that is coming, and now again, the universal, here it says the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's a very, very important document. And you have to must know it. Then we have the international humanitarian law. It is also called as a law of war, because it teaches you what your conduct should be in the war. And as I said, the key convention is the Geneva Conventions. Then we have the international criminal law. We have the trade law, we have the environment law, and so on. So these are the different domains. Now that you are discussing for example, if you are now discussing the climate change and artificial intelligence, I am giving you 1 minute and you need to tell me which all laws can be covered and discussed under this agenda of AI and green growth and combating climate change. So what are the components of the law that we can actually use here? Okay, how about international criminal law? Can we use it? Can I propose that international criminal law can be expanded or should be expanded for countries which are committing genocide on nature? And what would be a genocide on nature would be cutting down an entire important biological biosphere of the world, cutting out the forests. So remember that literally everything is applicable if you are creative enough and you can think wide enough, right? So that way, remember that there are you can look at international law, and the more you are an expert, I am also a lawyer in my past life, regrettably so. But that taught me a lot about international law as well. So now I can think about international law from so many different domains. Okay. And you can, as for any application on climate change, technology, like your trade law will be very, very important here. Nobody has talked about that, but trade essentially shapes industry. That essentially shapes how climate change takes place. Uh, and then international, then law of the sea is very important, because the law of the sea is also looking at, things like deep sea mining and the marine life ecosystems. And if AI is misused there, uh, you know if the AI is misused there, then that should also be regulated. And what I mean by lawyer in the past life, regrettably, is I thought it will solve some things when I work with law in the society, but I realized it's what we are doing that will change the world, and not my court argument skills. So that is when I say regrettably. And it's been 10 years that I moved away from that journey of law into a journey of education. So let us now move to the next slide, and please keep your comments coming. They are very important. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, diplomatic and consular law too, subtle but not critical. Yes, I mean, again, as I said, it's all about your creativity. Now you will get these slides, everyone. And here we have listed down all the important international laws that are in every category. One law that I would love for you all to really read through. David, can we highlight the Montreal Protocol which is the last law in the second category of environment and climate change? Here itself, can we just highlight it? The Montreal Protocol in the second, like on the second column, the last one on the right side, David. Here, yes. So this Montreal Protocol, friends, is the most, I would say, one of the most important conventions, because for a simple reason that Montreal Protocol is the only one in an actual international law in the history of international law that actually led to the actual solution of the problem. So if you recall that there was something about our refrigeration and our air conditioning that was messing up the entire ozone layer, and what we used to call them chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. And then in Montreal Protocol, countries got together, and this to me is shows that some things are possible if we understand the urgency of them. As to then, so Montreal Protocol, and remember that the final success of international law and the UN is that it should not exist. It should not be needed, because a law which says that killing people is incorrect reflects a society where killing is happening. So please remember that the final purpose of every law is to dissolve its own use at the end of it. And if it cannot, or if the same law is preserving itself over the problem, then remember that the law is absolutely useless and a part of the problem rather than the part of the solution. So read about the Montreal Protocol as one case study that is actually successful for the world as far as climate action is concerned. Maybe you can formulate your next set of solutions along Montreal Protocol approach as well. So next slide, please. Okagisho. Okay. What I had said something about the law. I told you that the final success of a law is when the law is not needed at all. So the law has actually solved a problem. So I said that a law in a society where murder is illegal implies that there is murder in the society. If there was no murder in the society, there would be no law around murders in the society. So Kagisho, that is what I meant about what I had said. I hope that Kagishu, okay, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So similarly, now you need to look at every other international law. Remember, a lot of these issues are very deeply tied up with each other. Okay. And the Kigali Amendment is also a very important one. Actually, thank you so much for bringing that in. This is very, very important. So thank you for that perspective and that addition to the discussion. Next slide, please. Negotiation framework. Now, this is the final thing that we are looking at for now. which is how do you then build a negotiation framework once you have understood everything. So first, I hope you have actually understood whatever we have been doing. And A negotiation framework is finally starts with your initial position. So this means what is your country's initial position when you start coming to the MUN. The first GSL, the general speakers list you make is conveying your initial position. Then you are identifying your friends, your allies who are already on your side. So you don't have to work hard in convincing them, right? So right now you are simply mapping. Mapping means firstly understanding what is my initial position, who are my allies. Okay. uh, and remember that there will be countries who are generally your allies in everything, but maybe in that agenda their interests are affected in a negative way. So for instance, if UAE and South Africa are great friends, but UAE is the selling the fossil fuel and South Africa does not want the fossil fuel, so maybe they have a disagreement on the issue itself. But that does not mean that the countries become enemies. They continue to remain friends and they continue to try to collaborate. So identifying your allies is super important. Next slide, please. Identifying neutral parties and the competing interests. So neutral parties are those people who you can swing your way to get your resolutions passed, to get your bloc strengthened, to become large, to have larger consensus. Competing interest will not agree with you. Remember that. If there is one chocolate and you and your sibling both want the chocolate, then they are not getting the chocolate if you are getting the chocolate. So that is a competing interest. So unless you want to sacrifice your interest and give them half of the chocolate, uh, it is a competing interest. But if your mom or your dad, who is a neutral party in that process, you can bring them on your side. So it is more likely that you will get the chocolate without too much violence happening around the chocolate. And that applies to every resource and negotiation frameworks. So I hope you've understood that. Then the next slide, please, David. Scope of deviation. So you also, and I think that brings us to the same thing that I was talking about, that the question is how much can you budge from your policy? What is the red line? The red line is not sending us Mr. Kagisho Rabada to our cricket team, no matter how much you love me. That is your red line of negotiation. So if India said that you can keep Keshav and you give us your rugby captain, you'll be like, that is a red zone. We love the guy, but we can't do the exchange. So that is your red line, things that you will never negotiate. I hope that that is now clear to you. Now, just the last bit, and we will be wrapping up in David. I'll be closing my discussion in exactly 2 to 3 minutes. So we are within time for now. Now, there are two sources of research that you have to look at. One is the sources of research which are building your understanding. Maybe you're reading something on Wikipedia. Maybe you're talking to your parents and your friends about it. Maybe you read something on Instagram. Maybe you heard a podcast. You some interview that is building your understanding. Okay, that's good. It is adding some furtherance of understanding. But when you are a country and you actually are a smart country, then you don't go to UN forums and spread rumors. You have a responsibility to only cite valid sources, which means that you will cite official documents. And again, they are all available. This deck will be available to you. So you can Google search each of them. And if you recall, when we were looking at the UN website, there was an entire resources section. Every UN office has its own website. Governments have their own websites. So this data is verifiable out there in the public domain to be understood, and that is why it is used as the source for actually proving or disproving your points in the committee. Okay, so these are the four sources. My question to you, David, do we have a next slide or is this complete for now? This we have already covered. After this, I think this should be the last slide. So let's go to the previous slide, please. So now I will just, while I close the my section with you, I will ask you one last question. And that question is, if there is a UN website and your government's website, and they are giving you contradictory information, so which information will you have to look at and consider as important for yourself as a country? You can just simply write 1 or 2 as your response. I'm giving you 10 seconds. Okay, so only one person, Precious, has said 2, but and now we are having more 2s. And then some people are saying 1. Remember that if you use 1/2, you will be fired the next day from your job at the UN because your government has sent you there. So why will you listen to UN website over your own government data, right? They will probably send you to some corner of the country to do some job that you don't want. You will definitely be not in New York after that. So that is, remember, your government's perspective is what you are communicating. Now, the last question that I'm telling you is the which is the source that the entire committee will look up to? 1 or 2? Okay, the UN. Please continue to bring your points. I would argue to you that this will depend on how big the country is militarily, economically, and politically. How much influence they have. Uh, that is what finally decides which information prevails, right? If you are a USA and you decide to withdraw funding from the UN RWA on a simple allegation by Israel, then you are definitely still going with the second source of information. And the world will not be really saying a lot because of your sheer might of the country. So this is where, remember, beyond valid sources, and the more important thing is the politics of information. This politics is determined by the power structures. And the citizens must do everything to keep challenging these power structures through reasoned dialogue and informed debates. Okay, so this brings me to the conclusion of today's session. I hope that we were able to cover everything. And now David will and your now assignment is to pick up a country out other than South Africa or wherever your native country is from, where you are joining from today, and taking one more country and understanding its deep perspective. My recommendation is take on that country which you absolutely don't like, so that you are able to truly understand the perspective, which is a new perspective. Uh, and and then find out about climate change, AI, understand the keywords. And next week we will give you 1 week to research, so that we will be reconvening in the coming time. So David has already made that announcement that next week we will not have a lecture. I will miss you folks, and then we will see you after that week. David, over to you, and thank you once again, everyone. You're such amazing people. And of course, Richard and David are ex youth of the same place, same lovely country and the land. So they are showing you where you can be and the scale of impact you can achieve as you continue on. So what David will do is send you the assignment on a SMS or an email. So you will have the whole week to catch up. David, over to you, and thank you once again, everyone.
All right, thanks, Kashyap. Much appreciated. Thank you guys for staying with us. So just remember, next week I will also send you an SMS. There's no classes, but we will send you some work and content to work through. And for those that maybe have missed a few lessons, they've got time now to catch up. Of course, you can work through the MOOC. So continue doing that. Thank you for all the activities. I see a lot of you guys are completing everything, which is very important. And just take note, everything that we've told you up to now is very, very critical when it comes to the practicals, because you are going to need to follow those steps, especially what we did the last lesson. So just make sure you go and understand what's going to be expected from you. But guys, thank you so much once more. And then we will see you again on let me check the date. It will be the 25th of August, but I will send out SMSs as well to keep you guys in the loop. Have a lovely evening and see you in, 10 days time or so. Bye, everyone.